Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you watch. It's myself and Paul Kelly. We are back. That means only one thing in the SBR and boxing world. That means we're in preview mode, and we've got a treat for you right now. We are reviewing a fight that's taking place in Belfast, between one of Belfast's up and coming stars, and a man who will be there, Paul Kelly. So we are joined by a specialist who will be there. This is for WBO Intercontinental welterweight action, and there's a fight between Lewis Crocker and Jose Felix, which is taking place on the 27th of January. Paul, obviously delighted that you're here joining me. You've been a big fan of the Croc for some time, and I've been regaling us with how he will be a future success. And the first question I'm going to ask you, Paul, frankly, I'm not even going to talk about the fight. I'm going to go straight into this question, it's a challenging one, and that is Lewis Crocker in your mind? Bearing in mind there'll be a lot of people watching from your native homeland here. Is Lewis Crocker Belfast's next world champion? Yes or no? Talk to me.
Thanks very much, mate, for that breakdown. Yeah, so excited for this. Love watching Lewis Crocker fight, and you're right, I will be there. But yeah, we'll come on to the fight. I'm sure more later on in the video. To answer your question, mate, is Lewis Crocker Belfast's next world champion? And a resounding yes, he is. He will be Belfast's next world champion. It could be by the end of 2024. Who knows? More likely, I'd say 2025 or around that time. But mate, think I think he's got all of the attributes to go far in the division. He's massive for a welterweight. He's very, very big. You look at his last fight against Tyrone McKenna, and yes, McKenna is naturally a super lightweight. But like on the night, Lewis Crocker, he must have gone in there as yeah, he was he was at least a middleweight going into that ring, if not a super middleweight. He was definitely put on a stone at least in weight between the weigh in and fight night. He's absolutely massive. Interviewed Eddie Hearn myself there in the aftermath, and he likened Lewis Crocker to Gennady Golovkin. So yeah, and I completely agree with him, mate. No, all joking aside, the way he punches, he kind of rather than just your straight shots, it kind of punches down with turning the knuckles over and stuff like that. So I would urge, yes, I'm biased, obviously, as he's one of my favorite fighters, and I've been on the Croc hype train for quite some time. But mate, yeah,
Let
he's
me ask you a
Belfast's
question.
next
Quick,
world
I can
champion.
ask you a question here around because you know, like you say, I'm personally, admit you know more about the Belfast boxing scene than I do. I was just wondering, who is there anyone else that you think could challenge, in your mind, your opinion, Lewis Crocker to become next world champion from Belfast? Do you think there's anyone that can leapfrog him to become a world champion ahead of him, or do you reckon it's night and day, Crocker or no Crocker?
I'd say now, mate, most people would say Crocker personally. However, then you've also got the caveat of, yes, Conlon's lost three times now, but skill wise, you still think he has the ability to win a world title. Whether or not I don't know what he's doing next in his career. Some people would say that, he would only need another one or two wins and then fight for a world title, whereas Crocker may need more. You've got fighters probably down the way. It's obviously you've got Paddy McCrory who's fighting Edgar Berlanga as well. If he wins that, then he'll probably get a world title shot. But he was obviously a big underdog against Berlanga. Kind of lower down, you've got the Kurt Walker who's campaigning as a featherweight. He's super talented, and I think he could potentially go on the world honors. But again, I don't think he's at the level Crocker is at now. I think it's more likely, when we're talking about next world champion, I think Crocker is definitely the most likely.
You know what, Paul? I think you make a very, very valid point there, especially about Colin. Could be potentially one or two fights. So it's a big draw still. So whether he can get himself in sort of contention, and then people obviously thinking, he's lost at that level before, maybe they can beat him, but also get a good payday out of it is a valid one. In comparison to Crocker, whether he'll need to, maybe one or two fights away from a world title when it will happen, we wait to see. Paul, I'm going to throw some names at you actually around that sort of welterweight division, and I'm going to ask you how you think Lewis Crocker would fare. Well, I'm going to warm you up with one name, then I'm going to drop a name on you, which I'm going to let you come off the long run on. The first one is Michael McKinson.
Knocks him
Michael
out.
McKinson, obviously, 26-1, 4 KOs on his record. How do you reckon? Obviously, he's been with Ortiz as well, lost in the ninth round KO. How do you think? Do you think Crocker would is at the stage now where he beat someone like McKinson? Would you wager the Crocker in that one? How do you reckon he'd get on?
Yeah, I do. I really like Michael McKinson. Such good ability and boxing IQ, but I'm sorry, Lewis Crocker stops him.
And now this, Paul, this is what I want to talk about because we've been critical of this fight. Both of us have previously. This guy who's kind of looking for a fight around that sort of welterweight division hasn't had one for various, I suppose, dietary reasons, if you believe some dossiers that have been going around. Conor Benn, Conor Benn versus Crocker. How do you see that fight playing out? Do you think Croc's got enough early stoppage, middle stoppage, late stoppage? What are you saying to me?
Yeah, I knew you were going to throw that one at me. And do you know what? It's really interesting. I was talking with a few other fellas at ringside at the last Crocker McKenna fight on the Condon Gill undercard, and mate, Lewis Crocker gives Conor Benn fits. He does, honestly. I think it's obviously a tough fight, and but at welterweight, I really think Lewis Crocker has the ability to beat Conor Benn. I think he could do it. I'm not as confident as obviously I was like McKinson or maybe the ones the likes of Chris Congo or someone like that. But yeah, I think he can beat Conor Benn. I really, really do. And I know people are going to come at me and laugh at me probably and say, "Oh, it's just Belfast bad, backing your boy from the same city or whatever." Mate, no, honestly, time will tell. Now that he's got the Eddie Hearn matchroom, kind of show behind him, Lewis Crocker, I think he might get opportunities like this. And yeah, the world's his oyster, mate. I think he beats Conor Benn, maybe even stops him.
You know what, Paul? I'm not from Belfast, as people probably tell by my accent. I'm jumping on the train with you, mate. I hope full well that if Conor Benn, without his 100 eggs a day supplement that he seems to be taking, goes back to the Conor Benn that we know pre egg diet. I think Crocker stops him, mate. I think Crocker's got too much for him, frankly. And I'm gonna lie to you, I'd love to see it. But Paul, we're not here to talk about Conor Benn. We're obviously here to talk about Crocker versus the opponent on the 27th of January, which is be Jose Felix. So Jose Felix is a Mexican fighter. 46-1 record, only 31 though, so obviously a lot of miles on the clock. Has been stopped only twice, but has 31 KOs out of 40 victories himself. I suppose as an Irishman will remember what happened to Gary Cully when he fought Jose Felix. That'll be long on your memory as well. But he's also lost to Tyrone McKenna, so that'll also be in your mind. A UD victory for Tyrone McKenna there. I'm going to come to you first, again, as our Belfast boxing correspondent and our specialist, for a prediction here on how you think this fight's going to go, whether you think there's a potential banana skin coming from Mexico, whether you think he's durable and obviously might not get stopped by Crocker, whether you reckon Crocker can make a statement victory here with a stoppage of Jose Felix.
Yeah, mate, thanks for that. I'm really looking forward to this fight, and it is an interesting one because you look at the record of Jose Felix, and on paper, well, he's got a 76% knockout ratio. He's had 47 fights, won 40 of them, 31 by knockout. Yes, he's lost 6 times, but only 2 stoppages, some of which were early on in his career as well. And you just look at the way, yeah, Gary Cully was riding the crest of a wave. He was going to be the next world champion from Ireland. Some were going to say, was looking unbelievable, and then he got starched in 3 rounds by Jose Felix. So Lewis Crocker will need to be on it. He will need to be on it. I think he will be on it. And yeah, mate. Another member of ASBR said, if Crocker's such a big puncher, why is his record? Why has he only got 10 knockouts in his 18 victories? Well, he's going to have 11 out of 19 come January 27th because he's going to stop Jose Felix, mate. Probably won't be early, mid to late. I'd go maybe round 7. Round 7, round 8, I think Lewis Crocker gets Jose Felix out of there and makes a real statement and gets Eddie Hearn to get the pen out and sign him permanently.
Right, what a man you are. Can I just get one quick yes or no? Sorry, this question. I wasn't sort of spring on your hand, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Do you think if Crocker does win against Felix, that it'll be the best victory on his record to date?
Yeah, mate. Yeah, it has to be. Obviously, Tyrone McKenna is a standout name on his resume, and he battered him, won every round there. But it's Tyrone McKenna. He's more of he's not a welterweight. He's a lightweight or a super lightweight. So size wise, Crocker had all of the advantage. So this is, if Jose Felix an out and out welterweight. So yeah, really, really would be his best win, and I fully expect him to pass that test with flying colours.
You are some man. I know you're getting me excited just hearing you talk about it. I'm actually going to predict a Crocker victory as well, but I'm going to predict a Crocker victory on points. I'm not saying he hasn't got any power, but what I am saying is I think if he manages to stop Felix, which I hope he does, for your sake and for his own as well, I think it'd be a hell of a statement victory, to be honest with you, if he gets that stoppage over Felix, especially what happened to Cully beforehand. A great narrative, like you say, it sets up some big fights with Eddie Hearn as well. But guys, that's all we've got time for. Obviously, I've enjoyed it. I'm smiling. I hope you can feel the passion emanating from Paul there about this fight. Let us know in the comments whether you agree or disagree with Paul, whether you predict Felix or Crocker to win this one. What's next potentially for Lewis Crocker as well. Paul, as always, thank you very much for joining me. And guys, as always, thank you very much for watching.